Hello, my name is Brian Linnekens, and I'm the President of Global Innovation Development. After a developer has selected the right architect for their real estate development project, one of the next major decisions that they must make is hiring the right engineer for their particular project. Being a structural engineer myself, I have a soft spot in my heart for engineers. But I'm also particularly hard on them because I really understand the business from the inside out. Selecting the right engineer is absolutely critical in the costing and profitability of your project. So developers need to make this decision very carefully. Your architect will work very closely with your engineer to ensure that their design can accommodate the required physical systems, including the mechanical and the structural and electrical components of the project. They'll also work very closely to what's known as value engineer the building, to ensure that the aesthetic vision of the architect is realized with the lowest cost possible. Value engineering doesn't mean constructing your project cheaply, but it does mean that your architect needs to be thoughtful about the placement of the structure and the systems to avoid any unnecessary structural costs. Given the importance of the relationship between the architect and the engineer, it may make sense for a developer to allow the architect to select the engineer, or at least suggest a few choices which the developer should take very seriously. Many developers make the mistake of selecting the lowest cost engineer, and they lose sight of the fact that a more expensive engineer may be more capable of saving the project significant money through efficient design and collaboration with the architect. Some larger architectural firms even have engineering staff in-house to make this interaction more efficient. Finding an architect with this type of functionality can be very effective, although frankly it usually is significantly more expensive. So I don't necessarily recommend this in every case. But as I mentioned, the architect and the engineer will work very closely during the project to ensure efficient and cost-effective design. This relationship starts right away during the schematic design phase of the architecture. During this initial design phase, the engineer and the architect will work together to ensure that the rough layout of the building includes allowances for the major mechanical and structural systems of the building. Then, in the later design phases, the engineer will produce a more detailed set of drawings with all of the systems of the project, for which the engineer must be held responsible. But if your design team isn't careful during the initial phases of the design, then you may later find yourself losing valuable square footage to accommodate these systems, and the pro forma and profit potential of the project can be dramatically affected. In addition to the mechanical systems, the structural engineer will also determine and require the structural elements of the building. It's critical that the architect and the engineer strike a balance between unique design and cost-effective construction. These are times that having a strong engineer can really be a benefit. And it's also a time that the developer himself or herself must pay particular attention to the process. Reining in the design of your architect to ensure that he or she is not designing a project which will be cost prohibitive to build is really one of the greatest concerns of a successful developer. I've often found that a project can meet its demise during this initial design if the developer and the engineer don't take time to ensure that the project is repeatedly value engineered throughout this initial stage. Structural engineers are also responsible for designing the foundation of the building. In this effort, they'll work closely with the soil engineer to determine the existing soil conditions and the required compaction of the earth. With this information, they'll design the footings and the foundation, and they'll produce a detailed set of drawings which identify every aspect of the foundation. Then, separately, the mechanical engineers will design the mechanical systems of the building. So these are things like the location of the plumbing, the electrical, and the HVAC, which is the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. These days, a lot of these mechanical systems are designed by what are known as design-build contractors, who will both design the systems and then provide the work and materials to actually install them as well. I found that using design build services for most of the mechanical systems can be a very efficient way to get these systems built, because no one really knows them better than the people who actually install them. Just one final note: when selecting an engineer, you must make absolutely sure that he or she is licensed in your state. And they really should also be a member of some professional organization, something like the American Society of Mechanical Engineers or the National Society of Professional Engineers. Selecting the right engineer is so important to the success of a project. It can really make all the difference in the cost effectiveness of the design. So please just make sure you're careful in this step. Good luck, and have a great day.